Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. This episode, for those is a very short in Ramadan, short episode of half an hour or so. But we will cover a very important issue, which is now the prevailing insecurity and the prevailing turbulence in Darfur, especially in West Darfur, in Jenin and Abu Ghraib, and the impact and the effect of this resurfacing of the fighting in Darfur, Alibet, the Juba agreement that was signed in 2020, still they want to see the effect of this on the international community, because definitely, and we heard that, they are a little bit worried about what is going on together with other things. So that's why we are hosting also, as we promised last week, our activist and our politician and economist and Dr. Halim Teman. Halim Teman is the Assistant President Ummah National Party. Welcome, Dr. Halim Teman, in this episode. It's an important episode to enlighten the viewers of what is going on and the consequences of this happening. Can you want to? I will start, Doctor, by a statement. Part of the statement of now these days, as everybody knows, these days we have a very high-level delegation of almost 5 members of the international community, and in which, after they concluded their talks and they are a little bit worried about this. I just read for you a small part of the statement of these people, which say that senior officials from France, Germany, Norway, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and the European Union have concluded a joint visit to Khartoum to show support for the people of Sudan and civilian-led transition towards democracy. They called for immediate progress towards a civilian transition government agreed through the Sudanese-led political process being facilitated by the United Nations Integrated Transmission Assistance Mission to Sudan UNITAMS, the African Union, and the Intergovernmental Authority Development IGAD. So, Dr. Halim, these are very important 5 elements of different parts of the globe, including America and Norway and the IGAD, and all they are a little bit worried. Can you tell us about the findings, with whom did they talk, and to what extent this will affect, and when will a reconciliation congress or talks will officially start, and what is the effect of what happened last week in Abu Ghraib, in Darfur, on these 5 gentlemen, all representing 5 different institutions of the globe?
Thank you for having me, and good day to the viewers. As we received very shocking news last week, and the casualties that exceeded 200 deaths, and also tens of injured civilians. And we, first of all,
there are displaced also?
And a lot of displaced people.
Okay.
First of all, we condemn this violence, and we ask for an immediate investigation and quick results. And we ask the government also to release the outcomes of these investigations and hold those who are responsible for these atrocities accountable. And first of all, this is also not the first time.
Yes,
we know that there is Grinding 1, Grinding 2, and also Grinding 1, Grinding 2. And this war has roots in the war that took place in the former regime period. But after the glorious December Revolution, we are hoping, and everybody was optimistic, that this revolution will end all sufferings of the peripheries and will stop war, especially that we have signed in 2020 a peace agreement. But after all these optimistic environment. Still, the casualties in terms of number, they are higher, and nothing was reflected in the ground. And this also poses a lot of questions. Where lies the reason exactly? And is it because the peace agreement was not properly implemented? Is it because that the security structure envisioned under the peace agreement of 2020 of Juba is not implemented? Or is it there's no central concern about what's going on in the peripheries? So all these are questions, but we must say that at this time, those who are responsible for the security of the government are known. The government, the armed forces, the rapid forces group, the rapid force army, and we have the movements armies who've signed the agreement with the government. So these three groups should be responsible for bringing about peace and security, at least for the troubled areas.
And holding the perpetrators the responsibility for this killing. They must go for investigation also, as you mentioned.
Yeah, although people talking about the tribal issues and that these are basically tribal problems, but it is the government has no excuse, because as we all know that we have the UNAMID mission in Darfur, and the exit of the UNAMID mission after the new mission, the NATAMIS, arrived in Sudan. We hear from Volker and other also international senior officials that by this time the government is able to bring back security to the country, and that there is no need for the UNAMID to continue in their operation in Darfur. But the question is that is their expectations is correct? It is not. The government failed to secure or bring security to these areas, and the casualties even are higher even before, and we have about 1.8 billion according to the reports from the United Nations, that 1.8 million of these people are in real need of food.
Camps.
And
but who decided on withdrawing the UNAMID? As if you are saying that this is one of my questions also, as if you are saying that the early or the premature withdrawal of UNAMID as United Nations forces and replacing it with UNITAMS. UNITAMS are not forces. UNITAMS is something administrative, has nothing to do with security. Do you think that the withdrawal of the UNAMID is premature, or was it premature?
Yeah, the mandate of the UNAMID is to protect the civilians in those war areas and trouble areas in Darfur. And we heard from senior officials of the United Nations, and even from Mr. Fork, they said that the government is now in their capacity and they are able to protect civilians. So and the government also pledged to do so. So this is the reason, the basic reason that the UNAMID has exited. The reason behind the exit of the UNAMID. But Volker, this question also should be addressed to Volker. And we know that one of the mandates of the UNATAMIS, the new mission, is also to help implement peace, and also to facilitate signing peace with those factions who have not signed yet. So peace and security is part of
the UNITAMS, but they don't have the forces, they don't have the tools. Not like UNAMID. They don't
Of
have
course,
the tools.
if we know that UNATAMIS now, they are here in Sudan under Chapter 6.
6.
But we have fear that if situation continue deteriorating like this, and if casualties will continue in this fashion, there is a probability also for this mission to be given the, or maybe they will
Go for Chapter 7.
they may go for Chapter 7, and this is also something that we as
setback.
Sudanese, we must we must pay attention to this also. And until now, because there is no UNAMID mission no longer there in Darfur, and because the government, they pledged to protect civilians, and because also the UNATAMIS, they said that the government is in their capacity to protect civilians, and because all these expectations are now went wrong, so there is a room for a question. What is the alternative?
So to what will be, what is the role? Now we can move to the role of the 5 dignitaries now in Sudan, representing different institutions, that who issued a statement saying that the 5, they are all the way they are with the revolution, with the transformation to civilian governance, with the stability of the region, especially Darfur. Can you elaborate on this issue about the mission of those 5 dignitaries? Who are they? First, who are they? These 5.
The 5, the joint mission is consisted of a special envoy of France to Horn of Africa, and the special envoy of the United Kingdom to Horn of Africa and Red Sea, and also among them the director of East Africa and from Germany, and we have also the general director for international affairs from Norway, and we have deputy assistant secretary of state of the United States for Africa.
So this is a high level,
very high level.
Okay,
and
okay.
They came here purposely.
What did they say? What did, of course, you might have met them, but what is the outcome of the meetings?
No, from the press, their meetings, they met the Supreme Council leader, and they had a press release. First of all, they talked about their support for the Sudanese people, for their aspirations in freedom, peace, and justice, and they also underscored that there should be genuine effort for a transitional-led government. They also showed support for the facilitators, the joint tribal facilitators, the UNATAMIS, United Nations, UNATAMIS, AU, and the IGAD.
The IGAD.
These 3, they declared that they will convene the political process in the 10th and 12th of next month, and they will facilitate a political process led by the Sudanese. This high-level joint delegation of these 5 countries, they showed support that they will support this political process, and they urge all political members and institutions in Sudan to join actively and fully in this process. They also showed concern about the deteriorating economy, Sudanese economy, and the immense outcomes of this deterioration faced by the citizens. And they also warned about that there should not be any further delay, because the consequences will be even more severe. And they also talked about the peace agreement and the necessity to implement the security structures envisioned under the Juba 2020 peace agreement, and we know that the political stability and the economic stability and the international support and security matters there, you cannot separate between them. So it is good that if you went to a political process, and hopefully if we succeeded to form a civilian-led government and appoint a new prime minister, I think this will open the way for economic stability and will also
security.
enable us to restore our relations with the international community, and that will help us through the executive new government to go in security issues, to implement the peace agreement, and also to protect the civilians. All these things will be possible.
Let us go here, Dr. Abdul Halim Tiwa. Let's go back to the now we have this how the international community is concerned about what's happening in Sudan, the deterioration in all directions, whether economic or security or in Darfur. Now, can you just go back and tell us about what has happened really in Darfur? Is it something? And we also, there is a general, one of the armed struggle leaders also was shot. Do you think this? First of all, what are generally the reasons? Who is responsible for this? First of all, because as far as I know, I said I came to know that it started by the killing of two of the nomads, which are the Arabs. Two of the nomads, like this killing, led to all this escalation of till it claimed lives of more than 200 and insecurity in the area. First of all, what are the reasons? Who are the perpetrators, generally speaking? And is there any possibility that will spill over to other parts of Darfur?
The roots of the struggle of in West Darfur province is
tribal.
It has roots in history between two main components, the Masalit tribe and the Arab tribes there. And from time to time, since the 1990s, there were fighting and killings between the two parts. But after the armed movements appeared and they raised arm again in the government, the shape of the struggle changed completely. And because also Sudan has open borders with Libya, Chad, Central Africa, also there is a lot of weapons came to Darfur. But as we know, the recent problem started in Krenik. It is just in Krenik locality. It is similar to what happened in Grinding. It starts by killing of some, it started by killing of some, according to the assertion that there were two men from the Arab tribes found dead, and then they asked for those criminals to be surrendered to the officials. But as the discussion and negotiations and the dialogues between the two parties not succeeded, we find that there is a conflict that happened between these two parties. But one of the most important things is that there is normally people talk about the coalition movement with their President Khamis, who is the governor of West Darfur. He belongs to Masalit tribe. And the Rapid Armed Forces, they normally composed of the Arab tribes. So basically, if we are talking about implicitly, if we are talking about a war, it is a war between two forces, the coalition forces and the rapid forces. Because most of of members of these forces, they are from the two tribes. So there is a room that normally each part defends its tribe. And this is how we can see that even if the problem is between the two tribes, the heavy weapons and the use of the cars and the heavy artillery,
Yes.
This reflects that this is not something that between the tribes, but rather it is between these armed movements and the rapid forces showing support for each part. This is what the normal citizens say in West Darfur. So there is a need for, first of all, I think it is important that anybody who is accused of supporting any part or he is a part of any struggle, he and his forces should be out of this province, out of the state. I mean the coalition forces and the armed movements and the rapid forces, all of them should be out of the state.
Who is going to be to maintain the stability? Police?
Yeah, the Sudanese armed forces, the police,
Sudanese armed forces
yes,
and the police.
And they should be responsible. And these people, since they are composed, their structure basically reflects a tribal concentration. I am talking about concentration. Since there is a tribal concentration in these two groups, they should be out of this state so that the job will be left for the armed forces and the police.
Okay. Do you expect, Dr. Halim, do you expect this will other areas will also be affected? Because you know after the Juba agreement, the two parts are completely, the problem is resolved in Blue Nile and South Kordofan. Although South Kordofan is not a signatory, Al-Hilo is not signatory, but it's resolved. Only in Darfur, it was only the area where Abdul Wahid, the Sudan Liberation Movement. Now this is something new. Some people, they say, do you think that it's something, if it is something isolated, this is better. It's a conflict, tribal conflict between two groups who have military weapons and artillery. This is something different than if some people are talking about it's a calculated ethnic cleansing from outside. Do you think do you agree to this hypothesis that some countries, international countries, are looking for the wealth of Darfur, the whole Darfur, and they are trying to change the social fabric by ethnic cleansing? Now what you are saying is something isolated, something, a conflict started by killing of two of the Arab forces by the Masarit, and now and then the war erupted, and now it is quelled or quenched and it is calm. They are saying that it's calm. Is this something calculated coming from outside? Do you believe that something calculated from outside, planned, a plot?
First of all, I don't have proof or any kind of evidence for this assertion, but according to the reasons mentioned, a lot of groups, they mentioned that this struggle is basically because of land, because of resources, and these are the reasons mentioned from many parts. And normally in any struggle, normally you can see the common agenda and the visible reasons. But normally it is probable that there would be some hidden agenda from all parts, and there will be also some other goals behind this struggle. But what is clear is that as this struggle erupted in the 1990s, we witnessed that even the tribal systems that prevailed in these provinces or states in Darfur, they have been changed by the former regime because they added to some tribes new areas. They added to the structure of the civil structure of the tribes. They also changed the civil structure of the tribes. And all these issues, they complicated the scene. We know that there is also the problem of the nomads and the residents and the continuous fight between them. So we have a lot of reasons of causing this conflict, but according to what we now hear and according to the reasons mentioned by many parts, they say that maybe resources and the international, even some maybe regional, international interest in our resources. And this is something that we will not discover today.
Doctor, not only Darfur. It's clear that the whole global, the international community, they have, most of them, they have interest on the whole Sudan. Not only in Darfur, whole Sudan. But maybe the weakest area from where they can penetrate is for Darfur, because Darfur already emerging from a very, very near political upheaval and wars. Therefore, the most part of Sudan, hard hit by the wars, a lot of displacement. So this reminds me back to the suggestion that the withdrawal, the premature withdrawal of UNAMID is one of the reasons. The government should have not asked for the withdrawal before they qualify themselves by security. Because according to Juba agreement, there should be a joint mission, joint security forces to protect the civilians before the withdrawal of UNAMID. So UNAMID, the withdrawal of UNAMID should have come after making sure that the situation in Darfur is tight, well controlled, and no way of any eruption. What is your comment on this?
Not only the UNAMID, maybe we talked about the withdrawal of UNAMID and that maybe it is too early, maybe the government pledged to protect civilians and it failed. But returning to our issue of exploitation and resources, normally, internationally, any country must cooperate with other countries in order to exchange benefits in terms of resources or other things. But normally in case of Sudan, I don't think that we are attractive so that people will, our situation or Sudan is now in this shape, is not attractive for any international investment. And we know that international cooperation is something good, but normally we should not make prejudices against others, but rather we should blame ourselves if we fail to protect our country and we fail to protect our resources, if we fail to work together and make common grounds. These are things that we should address rather than talking about exploitation and some regional intervention in our affairs, because the globe is open to international money. They can fly anywhere. So Sudan is not the best option now.
It's not the only area.
But in Darfur and in Sudan, there is one important reason. Normally, you cannot, after this revolution, you cannot change and make reforms, and the government and the state agencies are run by elements of the former regime. This thing is clear in the capital in Sudan, in Khartoum, okay, at the state or the central level. But at the regional level, the situation is even more worse, especially after the 25th October coup. We have seen that if you went to West Darfur, for example, states, they will tell you that the whole agencies of the government is run by the former government elements. And I think also the politics of installing the old regime is also one of the things that we must talk about. So we cannot make reform or achieve stability and make any progress in security or implementing the peace agreement or any kind or effort of reform. We cannot go without, first of all, make sure that we eliminate the elements of the former regime from state agencies, especially from very sensitive areas. This is a condition.
This is,
And this is
good.
very, very important because we have new revolution cannot be led by the elements of the
Of the old
former regime.
This is your. I agree with you. This is very,
Yes.
very important that before they can come, because whatever you do, these people, the hostage regime, relics, those who are coming from the hostage regime, they will be more than happy to have these conflicts continue and the killing continue to prove that the hostage regime was strong and was good. So I think I agree with you that this is one of
Especially in the rural areas and the states. All these states, if you went to West Darfur, if you went to South Kordofan, anywhere, there is no change. All these layers of the agencies, the state agencies, are run by the elements of the former regime.
So
And they, of course, you cannot leave.
expect from them any something good.
Yeah, we want to make reform. We want to implement the aspirations of our people in their fight for freedom, peace, and justice. And these are against the agendas of the former regime elements. So this contradiction reflects that the politics of this struggle may also be there. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Halim, thank you very much. As I introduced the short episode because of Ramadan, thank you for being with us. We covered as much as we could. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last 30 minutes or so. We hope to see you next week or week after Ramadan and after Ramadan Bayram, the Eid. We hope we will see you in good health, big wealth, and bye.